Pochettino has left Chelsea. So the Pochettino to Manchester United rumours are sparking. They're flying out. Some sources claiming United are going to advance for a deal for Pochettino because they really like him. And well, we know that Ineos really like Pochettino as they almost went for him at Nice. There was conversations there. We know that he's been linked to United before he was sacked by Chelsea. He's always been admired by those at United, and we will talk about the manager situation in a second. Tuchel, Pochettino, Ten Hag future, a couple rumours going about, but also it's been said United will sign 2 centre-backs. We're going to talk about the targets, the latest on transfers, reports coming in that Manchester United are going to sign a DM revealing Manchester United's transfer budget, which is a questionable report, we'll just say it at the latest, but also a bit of a setback in the Ashworth deal with him breaking gardening leave, Newcastle not happy, wanting to take action. The Newcastle Man United Ashworth situation is a little toxic. So let's dive into the stories. We're going to start with the Pochettino news, get that out of the way, then we're going to get into the transfer news and the Ashworth news, which is a little bit more interesting, so stay tuned for that. Please do hit the like button, give me 10 minutes of your time to get through all the latest Manchester United news, and do subscribe down below if you're new. But it was said this: Mauricio Pochettino is now on Manchester United and Bayern Munich's radar after leaving Chelsea. He's left Chelsea, of course he's linked to Manchester United, of course he's linked to Bayern Munich, shock. Now, manager leaves club, linked to United, fair enough. Media, fair enough, but we do actually like Poch. We know that for a fact. It was said by David Ornstein. Manchester United have been linked with Mauricio Pochettino for some time. He met with Ineos about the Nice job too, so there's a relationship there. I'm not suggesting it will happen. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Eric Ten Hag, but it's one to watch, says David Ornstein. David Ornstein, again, with the approach that I like, and Fabrizio Romano's been saying that, we have to wait and see what happens with Ten Hag, but this could be one. I think, Tuchel was admired, Poch is admired. It depends what happens to Ten Hag. I think you've got Tuchel and Poch, and they're definitely better options than, De Zerbi and Graham Potter and Southgate, in my opinion. So I think if Ten Hag is sat, this is one that's laid out, and maybe Ineos haven't made a decision on Ten Hag's future because they're waiting to see if a Pochettino would be available. Because again, I don't think Ineos have made a decision. I think Ineos have an idea of what they're going to do. I think they've had discussions, but I feel like they'll wait until the FA Cup final to then say, okay, do we still want to stick with this decision? Should we approach this manager if they want to sack Ten Hag to make sure they can get the manager they want? I'm not sure. I think we'll know everything in about a week, to be honest. But Pochettino has obviously parted way with the Chelsea board. And I don't know if he was sacked. I don't know if he left because the Chelsea board's a mess and they're going to sell all the players he wants to keep. The interesting thing is Pochettino wanted to say in transfers at Chelsea, which is something Ineos want to remove from the manager. So that could be something that doesn't work. But it was said that Mauricio Pochettino would be keen on a move to United. United are yet to decide whether to part company with Ten Hag. This is what reliable sources have said. Less reliable sources say that United are advancing for a deal for Pochettino. They're going to go and have discussions with him tomorrow. But it was all sort of ITKs and stuff. I do think tomorrow we're going to get so much news about Poch to United, or later today, Poch to United. But I just think United are looking at him, but we don't know if Ten Hag's going on, or if Ten Hag does go, I think he's someone we look at. That's how I'd explain the Poch situation. But I'm fed up of talking about managers. I think you guys are fed up of listening about managers, because at the end of the day, we're not going to know anything until a week's time when it's sorted. So let's just dive into some transfer news. So Chris Wheeler said this: Manchester United are exploring the possibility of a move for Mark Gay if United cannot tempt Everton to sell Jarrad Branthwaite with an offer in the region of 55 million. I said this before, I said it again. I said I got exclusive info that Manchester United would not be willing to pay more than 55 million for Branthwaite, but he is the first choice. Then that was basically confirmed by Muppeteers, Chris Wheeler, a couple other people. Manchester United are willing to get Branthwaite for 55 million, but once it gets to 60 million, they'll walk away, and they may look at Mark Gay as another Premier League proven centre-back that can play on the left-hand side as an option. The way I see it is we should just go all out for a right-sided centre-back, and then the remaining money left should go into like a younger player that could play left back and left centre back, like a Calafiori, like a Hato, which I spoke about in my video yesterday. But I do like Branthwaite, I do like Gay, just for the right price, because I think because they're English and Premier League proven, they then get a little bit overpriced, a little bit overrated. I like both players, but for the right price. Another player Manchester United have been linked to is Tosin and Todibo. It was said that Manchester United are expected to sign 2 centre-backs this summer. Jean-Claude Todibo and Tosin Adebayo are the 2 potential right-sided targets. I think Manchester United will sign a right centre-back. I think Manchester United will sign a left centre-back. Chris Wheeler was saying Gay and Branthwaite are the targets for the left, Todderburn and Tosson the targets for the right. I know that Lenny Euro is a target for the right. Antonio Silva was, but again, for the right price. I think United have gone off him. I'd really like us to go for a Hato or a Calafiore, but I will have to wait and see. There's things that I want to see us do, and we don't do often what I want to see Manchester United do in the window. I said we should go and put everything into signing Declan Rice. We didn't do that, but he was going to be 100 million, to be fair. Let's continue on to the next story. One thing I want to see Manchester United do is sign a DM. I think Maino and Bruno are class, but we need that person that's going to partner the midfield. It's very likely that Casemiro will go to Saudi Arabia. Even Fabrizio Romano says he expects Casemiro to go to Saudi Arabia. It was said by Chris Wheeler that Manchester United are interested in Michael Olise and the RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko, but a defensive midfielder will be next priority once they've strengthened defence. My pick would be Fofana, £25 million. You look at Amadou Onana, heavily linked, 50 million. Human, heavily linked, 40 million. I think Fofana is as good as them too, and he's got a good mentality, £25 million. I would go for Fofana. We were linked to Edison of Atalanta, but it's been said by reliable sources he's probably stay put, with Coop Miners most likely to leave. For me, DM is the most important position this summer. I think it's so key. I think midfields can transform teams. Like, I think games are won or lost to midfield. I think it can dictate a season. If we've got the right midfielder for Maino and Bruno and those three can stay fit, I think we can really advance and progress on this season. Hopefully we progress on the season no matter what happens, because this season's been pretty dire. But let's hope we win the FA Cup final. Continuing on to the stories on Dan Ashworth. Now, this is an interesting story, so let's get into this. Dan Ashworth and Omar Berrada had a conversation in early February. What did I say in my live stream earlier today? Dan Ashworth and Berrada are on gardening leave, but there's no way they haven't had a conversation. I said they've definitely had secret convos. Let's be honest, they've definitely had some conversations about transfer targets and Ten Hag, and that has basically been exposed. It said that Dan Ashworth and Omar Berrada had a conversation in early February, and Ashworth followed up by sending an email to Berrada making it clear he wanted him to join United. So this was before it was officially done, so Ashworth knew that United were coming for him. However, Ashworth sent a copy to his own Newcastle email, clumsily disclosing to the club negotiations with Berrada. So what Newcastle have done is, I think basically, I'm going to be honest, I haven't even gotten to the second part of the story. I think Newcastle are very bitter about the Dan Ashworth situation. 20 million fee they're asking for. We know they're bitter. All the sort of reports coming out, anti-Dan Ashworth reports from their media journalists. They're bitter about this situation that Dan Ashworth's chosen to leave them at the beginning of their Saudi-backed project to go to United, who've kind of been a mess. There is a bit of bitterness there. So obviously they've gone and they kicked him out. As soon as he went to United, they kicked him out of all his scouting network stuff, all of that, and they've probably gone through his emails and thought, can we find any instance of him breaking gardening leave or this or that? Because Dan Ashworth has taken them to court to try and get a deal settled for a fair fee for gardening leave, so it doesn't drag on. And Newcastle probably thinking, well, what can we do to help our case? It's basically sour. It's basically bitter. I understand why Newcastle are annoyed, but I think they're not helping themselves, because the next director of football they want to bring in, which is probably Dougie Freedman, may look at how they've handled this and potentially be put off. You can't blame United for not wanting to spend 20 million. You can't blame Newcastle really for asking for 20 million, because he is a big asset to them, but I think they needed to be a bit realistic here. It was said that Dan Ashworth also disclosed details to Berrada of the agreement between Newcastle and Brighton that took him to St James's Park in 2022, and this would likely be a breach of confidentiality to each of Newcastle and Brighton. So Ashworth could get in trouble here, because he's also basically said, I want to come to United. This is how Newcastle got me from Brighton. Here are the details. Bish bash bosh. And then obviously Newcastle have seen that and thought, you cheeky bugger. And they're probably not happy about that, and they'll probably use that in a case to stop Dan Ashworth to United or fine Dan Ashworth or get him in trouble. So hopefully there's no setbacks there. Hopefully Dan Ashworth to United can still be sorted. We know obviously there's going to be court sort of stuff going on in court where Man United and Newcastle can agree upon a fair compensation fee. Otherwise, we're just going to have to wait a year to bring in Ashworth, which for a player of his skills, for a director of his skill set, would be a complete waste. Continuing on into the final story before we round up, and I left at the end because I think it's a load of rubbish, but this was said here. Manchester United's starting budget this summer is a little more than 35 million, but Ineos expected to raise substantial funds through player sales and also prepared to offer players and swap deals. We know United's budget is about 100 million. We know through the revolving credit facility we've got more than 35 million. We've got at least 60, 70 million now, I think. But Manchester United like to play broke. Ineos will want to play broke because they know that teams will completely put Man United tax on players' prices when United go for players, because they know that we pay extra. So I think United are going to play the FFP card, the broke card, but every summer we say our budget is 30 million, 60 million, 90 million, and then we spend 200 million. So it's really one to ignore. Interestingly, it said that Ineos will look to structure deals rather than make one-off payments, something that was sin in the previous regime, which is fair. It's just don't do Chelsea where you do it really badly and it catches up with you. But I think that's a way of getting around FFP. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into today's show. That was all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, and more. Please do hit that like button if you have not already. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. Bye.